Hello friends, good morning. Welcome to Servicepedia. Let us see the current affairs for 24th of May 2018. In our learning topics today, we will be seeing something about model contract farming bill, a bill which has been submitted by the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. It has contained certain provisions with respect to bringing in contract farming in India. So we will be seeing something about that model contract farming act and model contract farming bill. We'll be also seeing about certain rising trade tensions which is happening in the Asia and how it will affect in Asia. And in focus prelim topics, we will be seeing something about the International Day of Biodiversity. We'll be also saying about Tokay Geckos and what is the habitat of Tokay Geckos, etc. We will be also seeing about Brahmos Missile, the importance of Brahmos Missile in India's new missile development program, and also we will be seeing the recent campaign which has been happening in Facebook and Twitter, that is HumFit TohIndiaFit campaign. So let us go for today's topics, friends. The first topic for today is contract farming in India. As we know what is contract farming, let us understand the basics of contract farming and let us go to the little bit history about contract farming. As we have already read in our history subjects that in 1860 and 1917 are two important years in Indian history. In 1860 we had a thing that is Indigo Revolt. In this particular instance, the farmers who have been growing indigo, they were having a contract with the British capitalist, and the British capitalist were having exploitative nature of absorbing all the produce that these planters was doing. Hence these planters stopped planting indigos and they went to courts to fight for the justice. This was an important watershed in Indian peasant movement, pre-independence, because it was a moment when most of the peasants, they learned how to use legal machinery to put their cause before the to bring justice to their own cause. Afterwards, in 1917, there was this Champaran Satyagraha. We have read that this is the first ever Satyagraha in which Gandhiji has participated in India, and the Champaran Satyagraha was related to Tinkatya system which was taking place in the Bihar region. In this Tinkatya system, 3 by 20th of this land has to be planted with the indigo or other plants which the British planters were giving to the farmers. The farmers were hugely exploited by this particular process because the indigo's price was heavily dropping. These are two important instances of contract farming pre-independence in India. Hence, what happened is that since contract farming was seen as an exploitative way, the government after 1947, they made contract farming illegal, or they did not allow contract farming in most of the states. And slowly, since agriculture was a part of state subject, hence not many states came up with the contract farming act. But things started to change in 1997. The PepsiCo, they started their own ketchup company in Punjab, and they started a contract farming in Punjab, whereby they used to procure the tomatoes which are essential for their ketchup, their own ketchup organization. Then again, so many agro farming industries came up in India, such as various chips manufacturing industries, etc. So these industries, they started having an agreement with these farmers. But what is the major drawback of this contract farming is that there is no particular law which governs contract farming in the entire India, because agriculture is state subject. Many states, they don't allow contract farming, or they allow contract farming in only few certain goods, such as maybe horticultural crops. They don't allow contract farming in agricultural crops, or they allow only contract farming in plantation crops, etc. So there's a huge disparity in contract farming. Also, there is things such as small and marginal farmers, they are not getting benefited due to contract farming. Only large farmers who has an area, who have a land holding of above 5 hectares or 10 hectares, they get benefited out of this contract farming. And also the mechanism of implementation, the dispute resolution mechanism, in case of breach of contract, they have to go to court. Again, the court of law, it takes a long time. Hence these things, they have reduced the impact of contract farming in India. So observing all these things in a holistic manner, the government has come up with the model contract farming act. Though in 2003, under APMC, under the model APMC act, The model APMC Act did spoke something about contract farming, but again, contract farming was put under the APMCs, that is Agri Produce Market Corporations, and this there was not a very good growth of APMCs there was not a very good growth of contract farming under the APMC regime. Hence, in this particular act, that is Model Contract Farming Act, APMCs have been set aside from the model contract farming, and a newer state board have been given to regulate to facilitate the contract farming, and also dispute resolution mechanism, ways in which breach of contract etc. has been given. So let us go for the contract farming, the topic. So the model APMC, as we already saw, model APMC had made registering authority as a contract farming, but it was regulative and restrictive in nature, and it was not a facilitative in nature. Also, contract farming is currently limited to certain sectors. Certain pros of contract farming is that it encourages forward and backward linkages. How will this happen? Suppose there is a company, there is a ketchup company. They need a particular variety of tomatoes so that they could make a very high quality of ketchup. There is the industry. They will go to the farmers nearby to the industry. They will give them the inputs. They will be giving them the best practices. They will be teaching them the best practices of how to cultivate tomatoes in the best manner. They will be giving fertilizers, high yield variety seeds, etc. So this will lead to a backward linkage where the farmers can easily understand the recent concepts of farming, and they will be able to get newer goods. I mean, they will be able to get higher produce, higher price realization for their products. And this industry, they will be leading to more supply chain. They will be leading to greater supply chain in the forward linkages, that is to the retail markets, and even there a huge number of jobs will be created. Again, a better price realization for farmers, as we already know that in with respect to horticultural crops, there is huge price volatility. In recent times, we have been seeing that the tomato prices have dropped to an epic low. That is some 2 rupees or 1 rupee per kg. It's what the tomatoes are being selling at the market. Hence, at such a low price, the farmers will not be able to get back the investment which they have put. Hence, in these cases, there will be a predetermined prices between the farmers and the industries, such that the industry, even though the price increases to a greater extent, the industry will be still getting at the price at which the agreement has been made, and the farmers, even though if the price gets reduced, the farmers will also get the price with the minimum price which the agreement says. Hence, it is a win-win situation for both the industry, since they have a price predictability of how much goods they will be getting. They can easily plan for their future. Suppose the industry knows that they will be getting 500 tons of tomatoes at rupees 20 with respect to the contract, then they will be able to price their product with respect to this category. And even if the price gets increased in the outer market, it will not impact them much, because they are getting the raw materials at rupees 20. So this will be leading to greater price efficiency in the market. Then development of agro processing clusters. As we already know, government have been developing mega food parks, mega food agro export zone, etc. So while contract farming will lead to more development of such mega food parks and agro processing clusters. Improved agricultural practices with respect to farmers. They will be knowing the newer agriculture practices. Stability in income levels, since they will be getting a minimum income, they will be getting a regular income with respect to selling of their goods. Reduction in the post-harvest losses. As we already know that India, there is 30 to 35% of losses in horticultural crops in India, and this will lead to reduction in the post-harvest losses, because after the harvesting of goods, they will be immediately transferred to the industries, where they will be put under certain post-harvest mechanism, pasteurization, or they will be put under certain mechanisms such that the shelf life will be increased, and also employment creation in rural areas. These are certain pros of contract farming. But what are the cons in the present structure? First one is no homogeneity in the present act. That is, each and every state they have their own act, they have their own rules and regulations, and there is no homogeneity with respect to this. Lack of balance to protect the interests of farmers with service contractors. So in certain cases, the farmer interests are greatly protected, whereas the contractors' interests or the industrialist interests are not protected. And at certain places, the interests of industrialists are greatly protected. Hence, the balance is missing between these two components. Regulative and restrictive in nature. This farming acts are more of regulative. They have to say how you have to do it, when you have to do it. They are not facilitative in nature, and then they are exploitative without a proper grievance redressal mechanism. Since farmers are very poor, they are unable to know when there is a breach of contract. They are unable to go and apply they are unable to start a case in the court, they are unable to get a justice, etc. And then there's huge monoculture which is being monoculture of crops can be done. For example, in a very fertile land, as that happened in indigo cultivation, in a very fertile land, the industrialists, they may be forcing the farmers to crop to cultivate only one particular crop. This will to transfer of in the transfer of cropping pattern of in India from food grains towards more of commercial crops. Again, when such a transfer is happening between food grain and commercial crops, it will lead to a food insecurity in India. So these are certain cons in the present structure. So what is the model contract farming bill? What does this bill particularly provides? The first point is that the bill provides for a state level board to be set up to promote and facilitate rather than regulate. So here they are promoting, they are putting a state level boards, they are creating a board in each and every state, which primary task is to facilitate, to improve the contract farming in India, contract farming in the state, rather than to regulate, to restrict, or to do the other things which does not lead to growth of contract farming. The important object is to facilitate the growth of contract farming. The second point is it also provides a dispute settlement authority, hence a easier way of settling disputes instead of using the regular way of going to courts. The third point says the model law stipulates that the sponsor will not be allowed to build any permanent structures in the land. Hence, in the land rights are being guaranteed to the farmer. The land rights cannot be given to the industrialists. The sponsors will not be able to build any permanent structures in the land. It is solely on the discretion of the farmers that any structure can be built. The law brings in contract farming outside the ambit of APMC. As we already know that APMCs have been very much regulatory in the growth of agriculture markets in India. This particular act it puts all the contract farming outside of the APMC ambit, and it provides for registering an agreement recording committee which will record all the agreements, and it will say that whether the agreements have been fulfilled or not. Finally, the contract farming will be also covered under the crop and livestock insurance. As we already know, we have already insurance on Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, which concentrates on Kharif, Rabi, and also horticulture crops. So all these crops will be put under this insurance scheme. Also, the Act also provides for promotion of farmer producer organizations and farmer producer companies. We have seen a point when we were discussing in this particular concept. What we have seen is that the larger farmers, they get usually benefited due to contract farming. Why is that? It is because larger farmers, they will be able to produce a lot. Apart from their own subsistence, they will be also produce certain commercial crops for to sell in the market. But small and marginal farmers are farmers who are having a land lesser than 2 hectares. They will not be able to produce that much. Even the produce they do, it is just to fulfill their own subsistence needs. They are not usually useful to sell these products in the market. Hence, what happens is that the contract farming earlier, it was not very helpful for the small and marginal farmers. In this case, the Act says that farmer producer organizations or FPCs will be encouraged. FPC is a company which may be registered under the Companies Act, or it may be a cooperative which may be registered under the Cooperatives Act. When such an act comes, when such a company is formed, all the farmers, they can get together collectively. They can put in their own produce, and they can create a huge task. They may create a huge produce which could be sold in the market. A collective organization whereby 10 persons each and producing a 10 kg of horticulture crops, they may produce 100 kg. Now they will be getting the right price for their produce, and the industries who needs a bulk of crops, they will be also need the bulk of raw materials. They will be also getting the raw materials from such an organization. This is also a win-win situation for both small and marginal farmers as well as industrialists, and this is hugely highlighted in this particular bill. And it also envisages that the setting up of contract farming facilitation group at a panchayat level or at taluk level, such that these groups, they will facilitate such contract farming. Hence, friends, I hope it is very helpful for you to understand the contract farming. We have seen the historical nature of contract farming in India. We have seen certain pros and cons of contract farming in India, and we have seen the recent bill and what are the different concepts of what are the different provisions of this bill, and how these provisions will be helpful in improving the to doubling the income of Indian farmers by 2022. I hope this topic has been very easier to understand, friends. Let us go for the next topic. The next topic is international trade tensions or worry for Asia. As we already know, there is huge trade tension that is growing in India. I mean, growing in Asia, growing in the world. The major thing is that there is a lack of respect. There is a growing erosion of multilateral trade regime, a rule-based trade regime. For example, World Trade Organizations. There is a growing trade wars that is happening between these nations, and it is affecting Asia more than any nation else. Because other developed nations, they have had a huge growth, but Asian growth is usually hugely dependent on the exports of goods to other nations. But when such trade wars occurs, when retaliatory tariff are made against one nation against another nation, what we can see is that it affects India, it affects Asian nations usually. We know that Asian nations are most of the Asian nations are colonial nations. They were not they did not have a growth even during the industrial revolution period. And now these nations have transferred from a poor economy to a lower income economy or to a middle income economy. But now when they are having a structural transformation in their economy, the developed nations, they are putting protective restrictions on the trade with respect to developing nations. Hence this is leading to lesser trade in this region. So between 2012 to 17, Asia's growth averaged at 6%, even though the world growth was at 4%. This is set to reduce because of this retaliatory tariff that is being done by the US and other nations. It is share for global GDP rose to 35% from 20% in the same period. Excuse me. This said that the importance of Asian nations with respect to global trade. The rapid growth is seen in merchandise exports since the more of industries are more industries are getting set up in these nations. There's huge FDI inflows coming in these nations, such that more of merchandise exports are getting exported, and Asia's share in global exports also spiked to 38%. So these points we can say that the growth of Asia is increasing. In the past 20 years, there is huge growth of exports in Asian region, but in the future it is being said that this growth may reduce because of such protective measures which have been taken by other nations. So what are the worrisome trends? A gradual erosion of a rule-based multilateral trading system. We have a common rule-based multilateral trading system, that is WTO, but most of the WTO rules are being not followed or they are being ignored. For example, we can take China. With China, it does not recognize or it does not follows the rules of WTO as such. Even when a dispute resolution mechanism, when a dispute is being brought up to the WTO dispute resolution body, then the China may be obliged to follow such provisions which have been set by the organization. But till then, the China has conveniently ignored what the WTO has been saying. China has been failure there is to abide by TRIPS and TRIMS measures, and also trade wars that has been happening between US and India, US and China. So friends, it is very easy to understand that such trade wars are happening, and this trade war will influence India's economy as well as the other poor economy in South Asian region. So for the rest of India, what we can do? For the rest of India, it is critical that they reaffirm the excuse me, they reaffirm the importance of an open, transparent and rule-based multilateral trading organization. So this is a very important thing. We have already found this in ASEAN that is growing up in region, but ASEAN is limited to only 10 nations in the Southeast Asian region. We have already SARC, we have other trading mechanisms. This much ensure an open trading mechanism which must happen in this region. Also while pushing forward greater intra-regional trade initiatives that are for mutual benefits. So the solution is that even though we have to call for a rule-based trading mechanism, we have to call for greater reforms in the WTO, we also must concentrate on regional organizations to improve our own trade regions. The third topic for today is International Day for Biodiversity. May 22 was celebrated as an International Day for Biodiversity, and it is an important year because it was 25 years after which the Convention on Biodiversity was established in the year of 1993. We know that Convention on Biodiversity, that is CBD, it was a part of 1992 Earth Summit which took place in Rio de Janeiro. So as a part of this summit, May 22nd is celebrated as the International Day for Biodiversity, and the theme for today is that celebrating 25 years of action for biodiversity. So this is the theme because it's been 25 years since this Convention on Biodiversity was established, and the convention has three important goals. That is the global conservation of biodiversity, its sustainable use, and equitable sharing benefits. We know that Convention on Biodiversity, it has two important conventions. One is Nagoya Protocol, and another one Nagoya Protocol. We have Kuala Lumpur Nagoya Supplementary Protocol. We have Aichi Biodiversity Targets. We have Cartagena Protocol. So these are certain four important components of this Convention on Biological Diversity. The next topic for today is this is a particular gecko which is found in the northeastern region, that is the rainforest of India, and this gecko is hugely smuggled because it is being used as a traditional medicine in China. So we can see this gecko is called as Tokay gecko, and it is an arboreal animal found in northeastern India as well as other regions in the Southeast Asia. Its native habitat is rainforest. This species is poached for the medicinal traits. This medicinal trait respect to China's traditional Chinese medicine. And due for this medicinal trait, this particular animal is being poached, and they are protected under Schedule 3. We know that Indian Wildlife Protection Act has six schedules. Schedule 1, Schedule 2 gives the highest protection. Schedule 3, Schedule 4 gives lesser protection. And this particular animal, it has lesser protection according to Schedule 3 of Indian Wildlife Protection Act. So again, mechanism to restrict wildlife trade, we are just seeing certain names. CITES is an organization which was formed by WWF and IUCN. It's a convention of other nations, and it has schedules which says that trade in which trade in animals in which trade has to be restricted, animals in which trade has to be protected, etc. So CITES is an initiative by WWF, that is Worldwide Fund for Nature, and also IUCN. There's a Traffic International which was done by IUCN. It is an NGO which sets to limit the trade between different trade in wildlife between different nations. And also we have Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, which is a statutory organization under the Wildlife Protection Act. This Wildlife Crime Control Bureau is an organization which seeks to protect wildlife from smuggling, poaching, etc. Our fifth topic for today is Brahmos Missile. Brahmos Missile is a medium-range ramjet supersonic cruise missile. Friends, it is important to understand difference between a cruise missile and a ballistic missile. So that's a task for you. You have to read about cruise missile, you have to read about a ballistic missile, and you have to do a comparative analysis between what is a supersonic cruise missile and what is ICBM, that is intercontinental ballistic missiles. What are the difference between these two missiles, and India, what are the different missiles that India has, and what is the type of those missiles? Okay, so this is designed by Russia and India. The Brahmos, its name comes from two rivers, that is Brahmaputra in India and Moskva in Russia. So these two rivers, the name comes from Brahmos. It is the fastest cruise missile in the world. It travels at a speed of Mach 2.8 to 3.0. Mach is the speed of sound, which we calculate in Mach, and this particular missile, it travels at the speed of Mach 2.8 to 3.0. It currently is land launched as well as ship launched versions. We also have other versions such as air launched and submarine launch. The air launch version and submarine launch version, they are being currently developed, but we have land launch and sea launch mission which have been easily developed. Also, the particular missile, it has a range of about 290 kilometers. Brahmos one has a range of 290 kilometers, and it can carry a warhead of about 500 kgs. Since India has joined MTCR, that is Mission Technology Control Regime, this range has been increased slightly. The 290 has been increased to 450 kilometers, and it is now getting increased to 600 kilometers. It is due to India's accession to the MTCR, that is Mission Technology Control Regime. The speed is also being enhanced to Mach 5.0, and air launch and submarine launch versions also being developed. So friends, this is an importance of Brahmos missile. So the next topic for today and the final topic for today is HumFit TohIndiaFit campaign. This is a campaign which is done by the Union Minister of Sports, that is Mr. Rajyavardhan Rathore. In order to encourage fitness in the country, Sports Minister Rajyavardhan Rathore took the first step to post videos of his fitness regime and challenge leading sportsmen of the country for the same. So in this case, minister will post a video and he challenges other persons with respect to their own fitness regime. And also we have been seeing that Virat Kohli, Hrithik Roshan, etc., other fitness enthusiasts, they have been posting their own videos in social media, and they have been challenging other people to post their own fitness routine. Hence, it is a way to make India more fit. It is a way to enhance awareness with respect to outdoor games, outdoor exercise, etc. Because we have been seeing that there is a huge growth of NCDs, that is non-communicable diseases in India. It is mainly due to lack of exercise that is being done by people, and this is a particular concept which has been done by our union minister, such that to improve the health regime and health routine of Indians. First, I hope today's topic was easier to understand and it has been very helpful for you. If you have any doubts, please post on the comment section. Thank you for watching us. Have a good day.